This video is going to be the longest ever. I'm so excited. Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and I'm so excited to finally be sharing with you, over 3 years after it happened, my birth story, my baby's birth story. I'm always not sure who to attribute this, like who gets to own the story. Birth is a mama and baby journey. So I think it's our birth story. Also, I'm going to be sharing a lot of details that may be considered too much information, but it's birth. This is a birth story. I'm going to share with you the details about birth. Disclaimer, I also want to say, while I did have a really positive birth experience, I know a lot of women have really traumatic birth experiences. So if you are concerned that this might be triggering for you, please don't watch it. However, if you're watching this and you are pregnant or planning to become pregnant soon, and things in this video sound exciting to you, I very much encourage you to consider making some similar choices for yourself. Alternatively, if you watch this video and there are things about this that make you feel uncomfortable, and not just in a birth is a big deal way, but in your gut, something doesn't feel right way, then I encourage you to make different birth choices for you. I've made a video about how important it is to feel comfortable in your birthing space. I will link that. And yeah, make the choices that are right for you. So for my first birth, I knew I wanted to have a midwife delivery, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to labor. So I found these midwives who, they worked for the hospital, so I could deliver in a hospital. They worked at a birth center, so I could deliver at the birth center, and they did home births also. So I had all of the options for where I could labor. Plus, there were 3 midwives there, and you'd see all 3 of them throughout. You didn't have a primary midwife, and then whoever was on call was the woman that caught your baby. And I liked that I was going to be familiar with whoever was going to be catching my baby. So at the very beginning of pregnancy, I learned that I had a really large fibroid on my uterus. It wasn't large before I got pregnant, but it grew throughout the pregnancy to about the size of a grapefruit, which, long story short, meant that there were concerns about me having bleeding after delivery. So hospital birth it was. That was really disappointing for me. I had made the choice that I wanted to have an unmedicated delivery for a lot of reasons, not just this like superhero woman thing. Your birth experience is completely different when you can't use the bottom half of your body. And I wanted to be able to move. I wanted to be able to experience it. There are chemical reasons. There are so many reasons that I wanted to have an unintervened birth. And I know that's a lot harder to do in a hospital environment. 40 weeks came and went. No signs of baby showing up. So I had a couple non-stress tests, and the last one I had was, I was at 41 plus 4. Our midwives were saying there's never a you're going to do this, right? Like, my health care is my choice, but they're of course going to make their strong recommendations based on them being healthcare professionals and it being their job. So the midwives were saying at 42 weeks is when we're really going to encourage some significant induction measures. For the type of birth I wanted, I really didn't want to be induced. I know that once you have one intervention, you're so much more likely to have additional interventions, and I didn't want to start that domino effect if I didn't need to. So in talking with the midwife, we were talking about some less invasive, not a chemical induction, but some maybe physiological inductions. So we talked about maybe sweeping my membranes, which is where I don't know how to do this, so definitely don't do it. But my understanding is they slide their finger inside your cervix, I think between the sac and the lining of your uterus. And I think that releases a chemical reaction or a hormonal reaction that releases some hormones that are like, let's go, let's get birth started. But you have to be at least somewhat dilated in order for your care provider to get their fingers inside of your cervix. If your cervix is super closed, they can't get in there. Castor oil is another option. It's an oil that you drink, and that's, supposed to help get things going also. More ways than one. Anyway, so during this non-stress test, we talked about our options. We talked about maybe sweeping our membranes. That felt more invasive to me. I wasn't really interested in that. And since I hadn't been checked the entire pregnancy, we decided, okay, how about you check me, see where I am, and then we can talk about our options. Because if I wasn't dilated at all, then there's no way to sweep my membranes. And we might be talking about a more drastic induction method down the road. I needed to get things moving. There was a smaller fibroid on my cervix. It was about 3 centimeters. So still not nothing, but not the 10 centimeter mass I had. That's not 10 centimeters. Grapefruit sized mass I had on my uterus. So when the midwife checked me, I was about 3 centimeters dilated, and she had felt the fibroid. Sometimes massaging that tissue can kind of get it to release. So the fibroid on my cervix could have potentially impeded dilation. And I'm wondering if when she palpated it, if that kind of helped it relax and start to open, or if that wasn't it, because we decided, once she said I was 3 centimeters, we decided to go ahead and try castor oil and see if that got things moving. I don't like that verbiage now that I know what castor oil is, because I didn't know at the time. Should I spoil it now? It's a laxative. We'll get there. So go home from the appointment, buy castor oil and Subway. Come home, my husband and I enjoy our last meal as a family of 2. I'm gonna start getting emotional already, and I'm not even in labor in the story. So they gave me directions for how to do this castor oil home induction. Please, please, please do not do this without a healthcare professional, your healthcare professional telling you to do this. There could be so many reasons that this is a problem. In fact, I know someone else who looked into it and didn't tell me details, but she said that castor oil seemed like too risky of a decision for her. She didn't want to make that decision for her body. So please don't just do this, but I'm going to tell you what we did. So I took a shot of castor oil. It was awful, awful. And then I had my Subway sandwich, and 2 hours after taking the castor oil, you're supposed to proceed with some nipple stimulation, which sounds a lot more fun than it is. You use your breast pump on the stimulation mode for 2 minutes and then take it off for 5. Stimulation for 2 minutes, off for 5, and you do that for an hour. And then you go to bed. So we go to bed at about 10 p.m. and right around 11 p.m. I wake up just in time to hear and feel a pop. I know immediately my water's broken, and I bolt out of bed, run to the shower. So I get in the shower and there's amniotic fluid coming out of me, and I yell to my husband, "My water broke! Call Jen!" who's our doula. And he comes running into the bathroom like a minute later with my phone in his hand, looking at me like, and I realize he's still asleep. He's still asleep. He's just, his body has panicked and known to run to me before his mind could wake up to have any kind of idea of what's going on. So my water broke. Immediately, I'm having signs of transition. So when you're in labor, transition's right before pushing. So I'm shaking. I was nauseous. I threw up. Contractions are right on top of each other, like 30-second breaks. They're coming so fast. They are intense. There had been no early labor. I did feel some contractions when we were doing the nipple stimulation part, but they didn't feel any different than the practice contractions I'd been having since 20 weeks pregnant. So my husband's on the phone with our doula, and in talking this out, we decided, let's just get straight to the hospital. We call the midwife, we let them know we're heading in. I had already bought Depends because I remember watching videos online of women talking about how it's great to wear Depends if your water breaks. So I put on the Depends, put on some other pants, got in the car, and it's a 20-minute drive to the hospital. I must have had 5 contractions in the car. So we get to the hospital, check-in wasn't that bad. They got us into a room within 20 minutes. I know that is not the case for everyone. I had already been prepared by my doula that they were going to check me when I got there. And she had said, we're not going to care about that measurement. When they say how dilated you are, we're not going to care about it because the cervix doesn't like the drive to the hospital. So it's apparently controversial about whether or not a cervix can dilate and then close some and redilate during labor. I am of the camp that it can. So they measured me at 5 centimeters, and I'm wondering if I had regressed. Jen was like, yay, 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters. And I was like, are you just trying to make me feel better? Because you said we weren't going to care about this number, and now you seem really excited about this number. But I'm wondering, because I had all of those symptoms of transition at home, if I was maybe ready to deliver and regressed in the car ride there. I get there, they measure me at 5, and then I had to work however many hours to get back to transition. So we got there just after midnight, and my labor mentality was knowing that I'm strong, that I can do this. I was telling myself with every contraction that that was one more behind me. I'm one step further to meeting this baby. And I kept thinking about it as work I was doing. I kept trying to think about being open, like open and down, for my body. I knew that I had to open, and I knew that fighting it wasn't going to get my baby here any faster, and I would rather go with it and get it over faster than fight it. So I knew that position changes were important, that movement was important. I tried laboring in the tub. I did not enjoy it. Also because when you birth at a hospital, there are all kinds of paperwork things and like blood stuff that they have to do when you get there. I was in active labor. I don't want you putting a tourniquet on me and drawing blood while I'm in active labor. I don't want to sign I'm not going to be reading something while I'm in active labor. My brain is otherwise occupied. I am bringing forth a human. I am perpetuating our species. I think that was the most upsetting part of the entire labor experience is you want me to sign something while I'm in labor? No. Anyway, like, why couldn't they have given that to me beforehand? Why did I have to say, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Anyway, so castor oil is a laxative, and I found that out while I was there. So again, I'm trying to think of open. I'm trying to think of being open. And when you have diarrhea, you don't want to think about being open. So I did a lot of laboring on the toilet. Again, something I could not have done had I had an epidural. And I loved being on the toilet. Apparently a lot of women like being on the toilet. I didn't do much laboring at all on the toilet with my second delivery. It's interesting. The things I liked in my first delivery and second delivery were completely different as far as enjoying for labor. So again, sat on the toilet a lot. There was, those ADA bars I could like lean on, and I just felt like, who cares what comes out of me? I'm sitting on a toilet. Also, some women feel really comfortable on a toilet because we feel like we can open and release, like think about going to a gynecologist's office and they're like, scoot your butt down farther, scoot your butt down farther, put your knees apart farther. And it's like, everything in my body is telling me not to do this. Anyway, on a toilet, we have learned to be open and relax. And so I did a lot of laboring on the toilet, and the contractions are coming so fast that I would come out of a contraction and I would try and grab some toilet paper, and the toilet paper kept getting stuck, where it's not just hanging down, so it kept getting stuck. So I would go to grab some toilet paper, and then I'd feel another one coming on, and I'd be like, Mama! I didn't really do that, but I was very upset. The thing is, I was so surprised, I guess, by how much I turned inward. Like, I am such an extrovert that I thought I was going to maybe be more interactive with other people, but I was turned in to my body and my baby. And I eventually got to what they call labor land, which is a place you don't really get to I don't think you can get there if you're medicated, like if you have an epidural or something, because the chemicals in your body, the hormones, I think that some cocktail of that is what shifts your mind over. I have been comparing it, and I hate doing this because it makes it sound like there's something wrong with you, but I compare it to like when your body's in shock. I am not a healthcare professional. I don't know what's actually happening in your body when you're in shock. I don't know what actually is happening to your body when you're in labor land. I just have been to labor land, and I know it feels like there's a different set of rules. Something else is in control. It felt like in Stranger Things, it felt like the Upside Down. Like, I felt like I was in the same place. I'm still in this big bathroom. I think there are people in there. I think my sister, my husband, and our doula were in there. I think there was a nurse nearby. I don't know. But I could hear voices, specifically our doula's voice. She was my, it's like you wouldn't climb Everest without a Sherpa. Why labor without a doula? She was my guide. She was guiding me through this hypnosis that was Laborland. And it really was foggy in and out. Like, I remember hearing pieces, and I just that was the least hard, I'm not gonna say easiest, that was the least hard part of labor, was Laborland. Because my body is taking over. I am a passenger on this ship. All I had to do was hand over the keys. And it was so cool, guys. It's really easy for me to say that now, but I remember, I do want to say, jumping ahead a little, I do want to say that after delivery, I didn't yet feel empowered or excited about my experience. I felt scared because I knew how hard it was, and I knew there were so many different pieces that had they been even slightly different, I would have made different choices and wouldn't have had the birth experience that I had reached for. Had I not had our doula, birth would have been completely different. Something I think that's so great about having a doula is, she was there to tell me as I'm going through all of this foreign land, again, like a Sherpa, is this normal? Is this okay? I didn't have to stress about that because I had her telling me. I had her energy in the room and her words saying, this is fine. This is fine. You're doing great. And if I needed to make an adjustment, if I started getting tight in my shoulders or my face, or I started, the sound she had me make was, when your face, your shoulders, and your jaw are relaxed, I think those three, you can't tighten up your bottomness. Like if you try and do a Kegel and then you can't hold it. So I made that sound throughout my entire labor and was hoarse the next day. But I do think that's a big part of why I was able to get through it as expediently as I did. After being on the toilet for a while, I was pretty much done with that business. So I decided to get back in the tub, and I'm, and at one contraction, I went, you know when you're feeling sick and you get warm all over and you're like, I think I'm gonna throw up. And then that heave just comes over your body. It just happens, or like a sneeze, how it just happens. I was kind of trying to hold that like in because it felt weird. Like I didn't know what it was. And I don't know, it didn't seem like a thing I should be doing. It seemed like I should still be open and relaxed, and felt like tightening. So I did it. I couldn't resist it, and I did it. And I remember my midwife going, oh, there we go. And I was like, wait, what? Because I was starting to come back into myself again. It was less out of body, and my brain was starting to kind of waken up more. And that's how pushing starts. A nurse had walked in right at that time and heard it, and so they decided to get me out of the tub. I went over to the bed, and I did do some pushing on the bed. Labor and delivery beds have all kinds of jackknifing, transformering that they can do, and they propped the back of it up, and there's a bar that comes up. So I was on my knees holding onto that bar, pushing, and I wanted to be really good at pushing. I don't know. But as people were like, great job, I was like, thank you. And I knew that the muscles for pushing are supposed to be the same as pooping, and I'd just been doing that all night. So that's what I kept doing. I just kept bearing down like I had to poop. I'll get on my soapbox about people judging women pooping in labor or people caring about that in another video. We need to get over this, ladies. Take it from someone who had diarrhea. The speed with which everyone in that room cleaned everything up and got it out of there, it was like it never happened. I was the only one who at one point said something. Nobody else said a thing. Nobody cared. They're like, I was working. I was doing another video. So I pushed a lot on my knees. My whole body was sore the next day. Like, birth is a workout. And then after a while of pushing kind of on my knees were getting tired, and I wanted to change things up. And again, position changes are helpful. So my doula encouraged me to kind of change positions, and I was sort of on my side. Someone was helping hold up my leg that was up, and I pushed that way for a while. I did make one joke during labor. So I'm, a silly person to make jokes. And I remember at one point, I had been pushing for so long, and I was getting tired, and I was like, come on, baby girl, please come out. And my cheerleading squad of the nurse and my doula and my sister and husband were like, she's coming, she's doing it, you're doing great. And I was like, you guys, this is a private conversation. So rude. I thought that I pushed for 3 hours, but I think it was maybe off and on. My doula says I pushed for about 30 minutes, so it must have just been that intense 30 minutes at the end on my side. The closer I got to delivery, and this was the same experience for my first and second delivery, as she was like there, it's exciting, people in the room, things are happening, I came more back to my mind. When she's further up in there, my body is taking over and helping push her out, but when she's almost out, my mind's just back to it. Plus, that's when tearing is more likely to happen. The thing is, you were at the finish line. I wanted to be finished, and I knew that pushing at the end, taking some time there, would help lessen the likelihood of tearing or lessen the severity. Plus, it's scary. It's like, as you're pushing, you're pushing the boundaries of what your skin's never done this. First of all, I would like to say men's bodies contract and expand for their sexual needs daily, if not hourly. Ours do that with babies. It's fine. It's a normal, healthy thing. You can totally birth a baby without tearing. But I wanted to be finished, so I pushed and pushed and pushed. Plus, I was getting all those compliments on how great pushing I was doing. And so I felt that ring of fire, and out comes her head. One more push, out comes her body. And I had wanted to catch her and put her on my body. And my midwife was like, okay, if you want to grab her, now's the time. And I reached down, and she was so slippery that I couldn't get a hold of her. And they just put her on my chest, and it's like, what just happened? Like, you have no time. Even though you have 9 months, 10 months, whatever, however long your pregnancy is, to kind of like prepare for that moment, It's very much, look over here, and then boom. I did talk in my video about types of maternal love, how I felt about her in those immediate moments after birth. I'll link that video. I remember she was really alert. She was immediately looking around. There were these human eyes in her face, and I just immediately kissed her and introduced myself and made a joke about, oh my God, there was a human inside of me, which I'm now embarrassed about, and of course why they tell the internet. We breastfed, I sang to her. They did give me some Pitocin after delivery to help my uterus contract back down. And it was beautiful. After 2 hours of me holding her and us breastfeeding, they took her over to weigh her and stamp her foot. And my husband got a footprint on the back of his hand, which is really cute and kind of, you want to make it up. And then there is a high that happens after delivery. I think, again, only when you've had an unmedicated birth, like the chemical high you get afterwards. And I was, woo! They put this, like, the mesh underwear on you, you know, and I was like doing this like sexy walk thing that I do as a joke with my husband, but that he actually kind of likes, which is weird and hysterical. But so I'm doing this sexy walk, and we had so many nurses. We had 6 nurses in the 7.5 hours we were there. The last nurse ended up being our nurse in recovery, postpartum, that area. And I'm doing this walk, and she's like, okay. In fact, there was another nurse in there who was like, oh yeah, I forgot you could use your legs. 90% of women in the United States get an epidural. So I do my sexy walk in there, and I'm like, he's a butt man. Telling this nurse that my husband likes butts, and then I'm like showing him. I'm like, it was ridiculous. I was so, they were ready to be done with me, I think. There were some people who really did seem annoyed that I could like move on my own. Yeah, the one part I really remember hating was after delivery, and they did not do this at my home birth, but in the hospital room, the nurse was pushing on my abdomen, I guess to try and get all of the blood out that they could. And I wonder if that had to do with getting the Pitocin, because I didn't get that at home. I don't know, I should ask about that. I should ask Jen. But she did it like 4 times, and it was awful. It hurt really badly. But also, like, my baby's out then, so it's like, we're just about done here, right? You know, like getting a bikini wax and they go back and do just a little bits. It's like, I mean, the worst is over. In hindsight, I wouldn't change a thing. I know how important it is to feel comfortable in your birthing place, and had there been concerns of me bleeding after delivery, that wouldn't have done anybody any good. So I'm so happy that I was still able to have the birth experience that I wanted in the hospital. If you're interested in me making a video about how I prepared for, who am I kidding? I'm gonna make the video and then I'm gonna post it and pretend like you asked for it, because 20 people are watching each of my videos right now. So for all 20 of you, you're going to at some point get a video about how I prepared for labor and delivery and what I think helped contribute to my success in having unintervened births as desired. If you change your mind or you don't desire an unmedicated birth, your birth is still success. Success. Whatever. You do you, mama. You brought a baby in the world. Proud of you. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like this video and please subscribe. I'll talk to you next time. I'll see you next time. I'll talk to you next time. We'll see and talk next time. Do you think I'm ever going to have a not awkward outro? Oh no. Bye.